known to the masses, certainly to younger people, as what things like the MGBs are and the Triumphs. But yeah, the more I sort of learn about these cars, the more interested I am. Welcome back. You may notice I'm wearing a different shirt, and that is because it's now Saturday morning. Late on Friday I was walking around this area just as my battery died very shortly before the end of the show for the day. So I was looking at these fantastic Sunbeam Alpines, and obviously I was having a look at a few micro cars. Now, not all micro cars had to be, shall we say, utilitarian. Some of them were a little bit sexier, a little bit attractive. Things like these Tridents here, yeah, they certainly have got a sort of more jet set, sporty looking appearance, haven't they? Quite like those. Obviously, probably a bit of a novelty, maybe not the best thing to drive around in on a UK winter, for example, but I think that's a great looking car. I also like this one here. They've got a reverse strike that's actually got no body on, so you can see all the underpinnings of it. Do like things like that. Obviously we've got the fuel tank up on top there. Whether that's pumped or gravity fed, I don't know, but yeah, that's it's quite interesting. It's sort of the kind of thing that we all would love to build in our sheds at home, I think. Incidentally, just going back to the car at the end there, the sort of sporty looking Roadster, that's actually mid-engined, and it appears to have a little four-cylinder in there. Definitely doesn't look like the kind of thing I'm used to seeing in a car like this. Something like what we've got here would probably be more what you're likely to find. So yeah, been interesting to know a bit more about that. That looks like it could be potentially something quite exciting. Range Vauxhall Calibras on here again. I remember these coming out and looking very sleek and sporty back in the day. Hillman Imps, I do want to have a look at these. Actually, one of my work colleagues, Mark, is quite big into the Hillman Imps, and I'm sure he would enjoy these very much. We've got this estate one here. I really love the look of that. Again, it's the saloons are probably the ones I'm more accustomed to seeing. Essentially, I suppose these were Scotland's Mini. Maybe not quite as successful and well known with the younger generation as what the Mini is, but yeah, there's definitely something appealing about these. I love the styling. I think there's a sort of very sort of 60s American-esque sort of style of the front of these cars, and obviously the rear engined as well. Not yet had a go in one of these, but at some point I think I need to have a drive of one of these. Himp derived, we've actually got a Clan Crusader. Again, this is something you really don't see that often. I've seen one at a car show last year, but it's certainly not something you're guaranteed to see at every show. One stand you obviously can't miss is the Bond Bugs. Three beautiful bright orange Bond Bugs on here. Again, these were sort of I don't know, supposedly a sort of sportier take on a little small engine three-wheeled runabout. Very 1970s, and obviously they've got a huge following these days. They've even got a nice matching chopper on here. A lovely selection of scimitars on display here. We've got a couple of GTEs. Yes, we all know a rather famous royal who once drove one of those. Also, we've got a Scimitar SS1, two-seater Roadster. We've also got a later Sabre Mark II on display as well. Former work colleague of mine actually had a Scimitar GTC. Incredibly rare. That's the convertible version of the GTE, which is obviously more of a shooting brake design. Midget and Sprite Club, they've got some interesting cars on here. I do like the little MGs, predominantly the MGBs, but Midget's are great little cars as well. Obviously we've got Frog-Eyed Sprite, and then we've got something a little bit more unique over here. Sebring Sprite, I actually read about one of these in a sort of magazine book all about MGs quite recently, and yeah, I really do like the look of that. I think it's a great style car. It's always difficult to get a sort of sleek looking design on such a small platform. A lovely Daimler Sovereign here. This is actually a 6-cylinder car. I did actually see a coupe version, a 6.6 at a show, but this is going back probably 3 years now. They're Again, probably not as common as the Jaguar variants, I don't think. We've also got the Daimler SP250. These were often referred to as the Dart, but I think for legal reasons I couldn't actually call it a Dart. To what I recall, I think these were actually the last car that they actually developed independently before Jaguar took them over. There was a replacement in the pipeline, but it never actually came to fruition. It was difficult to get around everything at these shows, but we're just trying to pick out a few gems here. D-Reg, so 86, 87, Rover Sterling. Obviously, I think that's probably quite an early car. These were sold in the UK predominantly as the 800. Sterling name, I think, might have been a flagship. Again, if you're in Rover circles, do let me know in the comments. Sterling was actually sold in the US and sadly didn't quite hit the mark. This was obviously one of the cars co-developed with Honda, so Honda got the Legend and Rover got the 800 and Sterling. But yeah, great looking car to see here, and yeah, I think you would have been quite happy having one of those as your company vehicle back in the day. Quite a selection of Mark 1 Land Rover Discoveries in here. 3-door one there, they're quite rare to see these days. In fact, even the 5-door ones are. But I've also got a commercial variant as well. A couple of 5-doors on here. I can't see any with the famous GWAT plates. They were the development cars, but yeah, either way, any of these cars are certainly rare beasts now. Probably one of the rarest variants, which I've not actually seen on here, was the Honda badged version. I've only ever seen one once, and up to that point didn't even know they existed. A few Princesses behind me in various states of repair. I've got a Wolsey version as well. These are cars again that sort of didn't get a lot of love for quite a while, and then now they seem to be gaining quite a cult following. Probably same again with the Ital, again another car that is sort of maybe steadily starting to gain a bit of appreciation after such a long time. So it's nice to see the guys hard at it again on the Jowett Club. I actually interviewed one of their members here last year who was doing some sheet metal work on a car, but yeah, every time you come here the guys at the Jowett Car Club always seem to be really busy, and there's always a lot going on.
Right.
Morning, what are we doing here today?
Engine change.
Engine change?
Yeah, we've got it swapped over yesterday, just getting out ancillaries to fit.
Oh right, okay.
It's working, we're getting there.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get it going this afternoon.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, come back at, I think, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Okay.
Come back at 2 o'clock and have a look.
I remember your guys busy on here last year, and there were a lot going on.
Yeah,
you always seem to put on a good...
we're always busy.
Always busy, that's what we like to hear.
We're not allowed to slack.
Oh, I better leave you to it then.
All right, cheers.
Thank you very much.
This competed in the rally, and it actually got rolled into a ditch,
Oh, right.
and Oxen pulled it out.
Oh, fantastic.
And they eventually finished. But the gentleman that owned it, he was a club member. He died 10 years ago. He's been stuck in his garages. His widow's here today. We're hoping to get it running, then she can get it back on the road.
Oh, that's
So
superb.
we're redoing all the brakes. We'll get the engine running by tomorrow night.
Oh, right, okay. Excellent. Well, I'm here all weekend, so yeah, look forward to seeing
Well,
that.
this engine has been put in yesterday. The car actually belongs to the editor of the Jowett magazine.
Oh, right, okay.
So they decided to change his engine for him.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Do you have many younger members, or is it predominantly older?
Well, predominantly, yeah, it is older. And when you think that the last Jowett left the production line in 1953,
Well, exactly, yeah.
you know,
But
nothing
it's,
younger than 73 years old. But no, we do have younger members, and we're finding that we're getting people joining up, people in their 30s and 40s who are young in terms of knowing about these cars,
Yeah.
but some very much younger ones, often the grandchildren of the older ones.
Oh,
The
okay.
interest often misses a generation. You
And
know?
then, yeah.
You know, you get all the older ones who are dropping off the purchase saying, "Oh, I don't know what's going to happen to my no, never mind Jowetts. My cars, my kids aren't interested." The grandchildren often
Oh,
are,
right.
Yeah.
or the grandchildren's mates. They're often interested.
Oh, that's
members
good.
that's here, his child is interested in his Jupiter, but his grandson wants it. His grandson's driving it already now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the
good.
Jupiter is the sports car one on the
Yeah.
end.
Sadly, with so many clubs, the clubs die with the members, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's good to know
Yeah.
you've got...
No, it's this is a thriving one, and several of the others do.
Yeah.
the trick is encouraging people, encouraging the interest.
Yeah.
You know, the ones who fail are those who are like that about the cars. You know, don't touch, don't.
Okay.
The ones that thrive are the ones who get the kids and say, "Do you want to sit in it?" You know.
Yeah.
And it starts from something as simple as just opening the door. Come on, have a sit in it. You know, and you know, oh wow.
Yeah.
And it goes from there. And you've got to be proactive.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there waiting for the interest to come along.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Right, I'd better run because
Yeah,
as I say, I've got to get back to my club. But
Yeah.
nice
Which is
to
yours?
Renault Owners Club. We're over just to the left of that
Right.
shutter over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, come and say hello if you're around. Right. What a smashing bunch of guys, and yeah, a thriving club. Even though the cars have been out of production for the best part of probably 70 years, and they're saying obviously they're actually getting younger people that are interested as well. That's really great. Lovely dolomite on here. What else have we got? I think the doors are about to open very shortly, so I'm going to have to run back to my club very, very soon and start getting my stand set up. Over there's lovely Aventime over there. I've actually been chauffeured in this morning again in a Renault Aventime, and yeah, quite a nice experience. It's travelling first class in a pillarless MPV coupe. Yeah, that's something you don't normally get in the same sentence. Loving the Triumph Spitfire and GT6. I always like the Spitfire, but I'm more of a coupe person, and I think where the MGB is considered the poor man's Aston, this has to be the poor man's E-Type, doesn't it? GT6s are sort of quite appreciating these days though, so yeah, you probably need slightly deeper pockets for one of those than what you would for a Spitfire. Very nice examples of some Metros. In fact, I think this one looks to be a rather posh Vanden Plough model. Obviously been lovingly cared for by its owner here. So yeah, if you want a Metro with all the leather and everything, that's the car for you. Another Metro here on the Metro Owners Club stand that's probably looking a little sorry for itself, but yeah, hopefully we'll get to see that car lovingly restored as well. Rover Metro in many ways probably a vast improvement upon the outgoing car. We finally got a 5-speed gearbox, you know, availability of some 16 valve engines, and hydrogas that was actually linked front to back, which was again supposedly another huge improvement. Sadly, the problem with these cars is that by this point obviously it was a rehash of a very aging body shell, and as we all know, by the end of the 1990s we had that horrific NCAP result, and it killed the model. But again, really down in the doldrums for a long time, and now these cars are really getting appreciation seems to be really growing, and has been for the last few years. One of my friends and a fellow YouTuber, Jake Bill, has got his car on a stand just down here. I'm not sure if Jake's around this morning, but yeah, he's got Millie the Mini, his Mini City, and yeah, good to see that car here. Last time I saw that car was actually up at the Motorist when Jake travelled up for a mini event, which is obviously quite a way for Jake to come from down south where he lives. Of course, if you want to see more of Jake's car, do check out his channel, Fuel Power, on YouTube. Rover 200 and 400 Owners Club. Again, another car I've got quite an affinity for. My grandfather had a couple of R8s. In fact, he had the SD3 200s before that as well. So we've got a fairly early 214 SLI on here. So the SLI was sort of a mid-spec car, so we've got sunroof, but I believe it was manual in these, but you've still got electric windows. We've got that proper wood as well, inserts in there. Obviously the 1.4 had the K-Series 16 valve twin cam, and obviously there was also the availability of the Honda D-Series in the 216. You could identify those by the boot badge and a little ducktail spoiler on the back. My grandfather actually had one the year after this, which was a 214 GSI, the then range topper. He also later on had a 216 SLI automatic, and these were fantastic cars. And before I bought my Megane Coupe, thinking I probably wouldn't find one, I was strongly considering a Rover R8. They're a great car, and the Rover 200 and 400 Owners Club, I've actually been on their Facebook page, and they seem a fantastic club. So if you want to get yourself into a good sort of starter 90s classic, you really can't go far wrong with something like this. Yeah, I've actually got an HHR 400 on here. My grandfather had one of those as well. You don't see too many of these now. You see probably more of the 45s, which were the facelifted cars with a round headlights. Again, Rover 800s, we've got a lovely coupe version here. You can see a 600 down the end. Rover P6s again, another fantastic car I like. Got that Diddy on suspension on the front. Left plenty of room in the engine bay for a V8, although initially it was intended to take a gas turbine engine. How cool would that have been? Very thirsty though apparently, which I suppose is hardly surprising. Lovely Ford Puma on this stand, silver one. I've actually reviewed one of those quite well a few years ago now, the 1.7, and they were fantastic cars. Rover P5B again, another one definitely on my wish list. Rover P4s, these actually sort of passed me by somewhat, and then I sat in one at a show a few years ago, and I was quite taken with it. So yeah, would quite like to have a go in one of them at some point. And in fact, Simon at Smashing Pistons has been looking after Jessie, the Rover P4, owned by Alex from Alex's Assets. Alex has actually got a car here today, by the way. She's got her Allegro on the Pride of Ownership stand. Now I am going to have to rush back, I'm afraid, because show's about to open, and I haven't really got my stand ready again yet this morning, so I need to get a few things out of my car. And again, I think I will try and rush around and do a bit more of this at the back end of the day. Obviously I've not actually ventured out of Hall 5 yet, so there's still quite a bit more to see. Quite recently I discovered a YouTube channel that's been going a few years, but it's relatively new to me. Metal Shaper Tom?
Yeah.
Anyway, then I found out that Tom was going to be here, and obviously I had to come and see him and have a bit of a chat.
Okay.
So I've recently been watching some videos on, you know, sort of sheet metal working and car bodies, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Tom, you're doing this, is this a 7 derived?
It's an Austin 7 chassis. It's my own design of body. I didn't want it to look like an Austin 7, so it's a very French inspired body, just using previous experience of that.
Yeah.
And it's just an own design of my own creation, just based on a 1930s Austin 7 chassis, really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, these cars, you could get chassis with sort of little like box saloon type bodies, couldn't you? And obviously then there was sort of more racy looking cars, weren't they, built on them. But what I really like about what Tom's doing is that, you know, in the old days people used to form bodies over wooden bucks and or wire frames, didn't they?
Yeah.
And what Tom's doing is he's been shaping all this metal, and things like this cowl that you were doing here, I was watching your video on that.
Very tricky panel to make, that one.
So that's got a double compound, is it that?
So we call that a reverse curve.
Reverse curve, yeah.
So the reverse curve in that is probably the hardest shape to form in metal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I left that piece till last to try and do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really sets off the front end and just gives it a nice flow over the steering wheel.
And that was inspired by another car of the period, wasn't it?
There's a Type 35 Bugatti that so the whole car is designed on cars that I've worked on in the past.
Yeah.
So I've worked on a lot of French pre-war racing cars, so there's a lot of style cues, like, and nods to other cars, like all the louvers are very Bugatti type. The actual shape of the boat tail is very Amel car.
Yeah.
You know? So my whole thing with this is I wanted you to look at the car and not know it was an Austin 7, basically, because I think every kind of shape of the Austin 7 has been done before, and I didn't want it to look like anyone else's car. So I wanted it to be very different to what was out there, really.
Obviously, I've seen the video where you were doing that, and when you were shaping the rear
head pod,
head pod, and I know obviously there's a lot of trial and error, isn't there, and making things fit, but obviously it's coming along nicely, and you know, do check out Tom's channel.
Instagram as well.
Instagram as well. I'll try, and if I remember to leave a link in the video description as well, because as I say, it's fascinating to see this sort of thing being done. It's something I really enjoy.
I love doing the videos and sharing the bit of information, and the whole thing with the channel is to give people a bit of information and knowledge and a bit of confidence to go ahead and have a go themselves, rather than trying to be like, this is what I do and put yourself on a pedestal. I'm just trying to help other people and give them a bit of information to go ahead and just have a go, really. That's what the channel's about. It's a little thing from what I do so I've got my main job, which I do this for a living, and this is all on the side, you know, just a little bit of fun in the evenings and weekends, really.
Brilliant.
So that's all I do.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along. I appreciate it.
Great. So I've had to come back to the mattress stand because one of the vehicles I noticed on here the other morning is owned by a fellow YouTuber, Martin. Now,
Hi, Mark.
Martin, you're from your channel is Grand Thrift Auto.
Yes, that's right.
And obviously you have got quite an eclectic mix of cars, haven't you, in your collection?
Yes, 13, I think, unlucky for some. And this is not one of the first. Well, it's maybe one of the first. Not the oldest, but somewhere in the middle. And so this is my Matra Rancho.
Right. Obviously, you think this is eclectic. I mean, you've got a Lancia Gamma Coupe, is it?
Yeah, there's a Gamma.
Yeah.
So this is the test, isn't it? There's a Gamma Coupe. There's a Renault 16. There's a Lotus Elite. There's a Granada Estate, Rover SD1, a Jaguar XJS.
Was he a Mark 1 Espace at some point as well?
There's a
wasn't
Mark 1 Espace,
Yeah.
which is also made by Matra. And a few others as well. That
and obviously you're not going out and buying the most pristine examples of all these cars.
No, I tend to buy ones that are kind of fixer-uppers.
Yep.
That I can... not too rotten or too disastrous, but something that I can work on and make a bit better.
Yeah.
Rather than buying something that's absolutely pristine, which I'd probably make worse by, part of the problem with so many cars is I don't use them enough.
Yeah.
And they don't like that. And, something goes wrong and you end up with a queue of things to do.
Yeah.
So it's not something I recommend people do.
They do make for good YouTube as well, don't they, when they need a bit of work doing.
It is all content, isn't it? Yeah.
So obviously, in the case of this one behind us, obviously there is quite a bit of bodywork to do, and I know you've been doing a bit of work on the A-pillar, haven't you?
I've made
around
a
the
start
door.
on it round there.
Yeah.
I've had this car since 2016, but I only actually started working on it last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs quite a lot of bodywork, as these tend to do.
Yep.
They weren't that rare. There's about 6,000 in the UK, but they all died out sort of by the early 90s because the rain gets inside the box sections and things, and they rot out. So I'm having to redo all of that because you can't get parts. I'm having to make them out of sheet steel.
Well, I think that there is a red one that I see at pretty much a lot of shows, but obviously it's the same vehicle, a really tidy one. But like I say, if I say I've seen 3 in the past 2 years, it's the same car I've seen 3 times.
Yeah, there's a couple. So Clive Nelson that has that red one that's often in reviews and things. There's another guy called Tim who's got a bronze one, which is absolutely lovely as well, and sometimes comes to shows.
Yeah.
But those are them. There are a couple, I think, of other. Well, there's somewhere between 6 and 10 UK cars that the club knows about. I'm here on the Matra Enthusiasts Club stand.
Yeah.
And so this would be one of only a couple in regular use when it's back on the road.
Yeah.
Which will be a little while yet.
Okay. Well, so if you like, obviously, seeing car restorations, and if you like seeing someone doing a bit of sheet metal work and forming different shapes, doing wheel arches and that sort of thing, check out Martin's channel. And actually, not just that sort of stuff. One of my favourite videos of yours, and I think it may even be possibly one of your less viewed videos, Pemberton Sands.
Pendine Sands.
Pendine Sands.
Hot rod racing.
Yeah, obviously you did a couple of years video. Actually, the first one you did was my favourite. The production value on that I thought were excellent. I certainly value production quality on videos.
Mark.
The way you present some of your videos, and when you've done shows and things, it's a bit like myself. You try and give a unique take on it and do something a bit different to the masses. So if you want something different to watch, my recommendation would be check out Grand Thrift Auto, where tomorrow apparently was yesterday.
Yes.
Or is yesterday.
Thanks, Mark.
Smashing. Thank you, Martin.
Really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Now we're actually into sort of the last 20 minutes or so of the weekend. In fact, there are actually some people around starting to pack things up now. But there were a couple of things I just quickly wanted to rush around and show you before the end of the day. Now, one was this fantastic Ferrari 456 GT that I've noticed this morning. Now, these cars were incredibly expensive back in the day, but anyone who knows anything about 4-seater Ferraris, they did have a bit of a history of depreciating like a stone, and this one was no exception. In fact, about 20 years ago, I actually saw one of these come up for around 25,000. I know when a couple of years ago I was seeing the odd ones for about 40, but I imagine they're probably, maybe now actually appreciating again. This one's been in the auction, I don't know what it went for, but it's really unusual being in this green colour. Now these cars were Ferrari's flagship back in the 1990s, but of course everyone raved about the rather pretty F355. These cars had a V12 up front, transaxle at the rear, and were a genuine four-seater. I think these could crack somewhere in the region of about 190 miles per hour, making them one of the fastest four-seater cars that money could buy back in the day. My favourite colour on these was the dark blue they did, but you know, you would see the odd silver. Obviously red is very much a Ferrari colour as well. Obviously we know many Ferraris end up being resale red, even if the owners don't set out to buy a red one. This green though, very unusual. Not normally a fan of green cars, but in this case I'll make an exception because that is absolutely stunning. If that has sold, be a very lucky person who's taking that car home. There's actually a couple of clear Williams been through the auction as well, a Williams 1 and a Williams 2. Uno Turbo back there as well. Again, another rather interesting car I quite like the look of. Yellow TR7. Yeah, again, car I actually had a short drive in one a few years ago. Actually rather liked it, a lot better than I expected it would be. One of two Rover P6 V8s that I've seen in the auction. That one badged as a V8, I think that's probably an automatic. Further down here there was actually a V8S. Again, a very desirable classic net these days. Porsche 928 over there, that's another one that caught my eye this morning. Clio 182. Again, they are a rapidly appreciating classic these days. Being that a lot of them got made into track cars, good ones are actually now worth some serious money, especially if you're lucky enough to drop on one of the trophy models. The Volvo P1800 there, again, those cars go for some serious money now. It's not unheard of for those cars to fetch in the region of £40,000. Obviously there is a celebrity connection there with the Saint. That one was the sort of shooting brake style body. There was a more traditional sort of coupe body as well. In fact, I once had to sit in one of those and I actually struggled a bit getting in and out, getting under the steering wheel, but yeah, still fantastic looking cars. Rather interesting Saabs on here as well. As I say, there's so, even though this show isn't as big as the November one, there is a lot to see still, and because I've spent so much time on my own stand, it's been difficult to try and get round things. A nice selection of Volvo 850s there, I think possibly a couple of 850Rs. One Volvo a little bit different. This truck here now, I actually like Volvo trucks. I've called Volvo FHs home for a number of years in the past. Obviously we didn't get one like that, and obviously that one is actually from a little bit before my time in haulage. RT Keydwells, that's a haulier I've actually used to see up and down quite a lot. In fact, they actually had a yard for a time in the town that I lived in. Another Volvo P1800. Obviously this is the one with the saloon, the coupe style body, as opposed to the shooting brake. I don't know which are the more desirable ones. Let me know in the comments, which one would you have? Likewise with the auctions, of all the stuff that we've seen in here, what would you be bidding on? Money no object. So that was the smaller haul through there where we've got the auctioneers and a few displays. The other of the larger halls that have been occupied today, this is actually predominantly trade stalls. Obviously we've got Auto Glim here behind me. Obviously I'm a huge fan of Auto Glim products. I use a lot of them myself and have done for many years. A lot of traders on here selling tools, auto jumble, and various other car related paraphernalia. I've actually bought some rubber hose in for my screen wash to replace the plastic stuff that I had to buy in a pinch when a line sadly started leaking a while back. So that gives me another little job to do. I've even been lucky enough to drop on some Renault technician sort of overcoats. A few years ago they had some overalls and I didn't manage to pick them up, so this was sort of the next best thing, and yeah, I thought for what they were asking, I thought I'm going to grab those this time so that I don't miss out again. This is hall 5 behind me. This is the sort of larger of the display hall at this event this year, and this is where I've spent the last 3 days. As I say, we've now got probably less than 10 minutes to go. A lot of people packing up. I'm just going to nip over. I want to have a quick look over at the Pride of Ownership stand, because I know Alex from Alex's Assets is on there with her Allegro. She did come and see me on my stand a few days ago. I also understand James Coleman, Rubbish Mechanic, is somewhere over there with his Volvo. So again, I want to nip over and at least say hello before we end this video. Obviously Sunday's a bit more relaxed today, but still a lot of people still hanging around at the moment. So yeah, it's been a good show. Really enjoyed this. Obviously there is a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to make events like this happen, but it's certainly worth it. So if ever you do find you get the opportunity, take it if it's offered, because yeah, it's not always easy to get the chance to display at events as good as this one. There's actually a Renault 5 GT Turbo one here I want to have a look at as well. So this show is about to end. It's been an absolutely fantastic weekend. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, do please give us a thumbs up, comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and don't forget to check out those channel memberships where there'll be some additional content, including members vlogs, where you'll see me doing a bit of work on this car at the NEC, and much more besides. Thanks for watching as always. I will catch you on the next video very soon. Bye from me.